हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू स्टेनो विद अरिहंत यूट्यूब चैनल। तो जैसा कि हमने कल आपको सूचित किया था कि हम 10 डेज़ के लिए एक स्पेशल बैच चलाने जा रहे हैं आपके एसएससी प्रिपरेशन को बूस्ट करने के लिए, ताकि स्किल में आप अच्छा परफॉर्म कर सको। ये ना किसी प्रोग्रेसिव का है ना केसी का है, ये अलग से मैटर्स निकाले हैं इस एसएससी के स्किल टेस्ट को ध्यान में रखते हुए, ताकि आप एक तरीके से रूबरू हो सको कि किस हिसाब का डिक्टेशन हो सकता है। द डिक्टेशन इज़ गोइंग टू स्टार्ट इन 5 seconds. In a reversal of the norm elsewhere in India, policymakers and economists have become optimists while bosses do the worrying. The country's central bank has predicted that the country's economy is likely to grow at a double digit rate during the next 20-30 years. India has the capability with its vast labor and lauded entrepreneur spirit. But the private sector, which is supposed to do the heavy lifting that turns India from the world's 10th largest economy to its third largest by 2030, has become fed up. Business people often carp about India's problems, but their irritation this time has a nervous edge. In the first quarter of 2011, GDP grew at an annual rate of 7.8%. In 2005-7, it managed 9 to 10%. The economy may be slowing naturally as the low interest rates and public spending that got India through the global crisis are belatedly withdrawn. At the same time, the surge in inflation caused by exorbitant food prices has spread more widely, casting doubt over whether India can grow at 8 to 10% in the medium term without overheating. In India, as in many fast growing nations, the confidence to invest depends on the conviction that the long term trajectory is intact, and it is that which is in doubt. Big Indian firms too sometimes seem happier to invest abroad than at home in deals that are often hailed as symbols of the country's growing clout, but sometimes speak to its weaknesses. Purchases of natural resources that India has in abundance but struggles to get out of the ground. In fact, a further dip in investment could be self fulfilling if fewer roads, ports, and factories are built. This will hurt both short term growth figures and reduce the economy's long term capacity. There is a view that because a fair amount of growth is assured, the government need not try very hard. The liberalization reforms that began in 1991 freed markets for products and gave rise to vibrant competition. At the same time, what economists call factor markets, those for basic inputs like land, power, labor, etc., remain unreformed and largely under state control, which creates difficulties. Clearances today can take 3 to 4 years, and many employers are keen to replace workers with machines despite an abundance of labor force. This can be attributed to labor laws which are inimical to employ creation and an education system that means finding quality manpower a major problem. In fact, the Planning Commission concluded that even achieving 9% growth will need marked policy action in unreformed sectors. 20 years ago, it was said that the yardstick against which India should be measured was its potential, and it is clear that there remains much to do. In many countries, a combustible mixture of authoritarianism, unemployment, and youth has given rise to disaffection with strongmen rulers, which has in turn spilled over into uprisings. Young people in these countries are far better educated than their parents were. In 1990, the average Egyptian had 4.4 years of schooling. By 2010, the figure had risen to 7.1 years. Could it be that education, by making people less willing to put up with restrictions on freedom and more willing to question authority, promotes democratization? Ideas about the links between education, income, and democracy are at the heart of what social scientists have long studied. Since then, plenty of economists and political scientists have looked for statistical evidence of a causal link between education and democratization. Many have pointed to the strong correlation that exists between level of education and measures like the pluralism of party politics and the existence of civil liberties. The patterns are similar when income and democracy are considered. There are outliers, of course. Until recently, many Arab countries managed to combine energy based wealth and decent education with undemocratic political systems. But some deduce from the overall picture that as China and other authoritarian states get more educated and richer, their people will agitate for greater political freedom, culminating in a shift to a more democratic form of government. This apparently reasonable intuition is shakier than it seems. Critics of the hypothesis point out that correlation is hardly causation. The general trend over the past half century may have been towards rising living standards, a wider spread of basic education, and more democracy. But it is entirely possible that this is being driven by another variable. Even if the correlation were not spurious, it would be difficult to know which way causation ran. Does more education lead to greater democracy, or are more democratic countries better at educating their citizens? A recent NBR paper compared a group of Kenyan girls in 69 primary schools whose students were randomly selected to receive a scholarship with similar students in schools which received no such financial aid. थैंक यू एवरीवन। आई होप सो डिक्टेशन आप सबने अच्छे से लिखा होगा। अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आई तो इसको लाइक कीजिएगा, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर कीजिएगा। एंड कोई भी डाउट हो आपको एसएससी के स्किल से रिलेटेड, स्टेनोग्राफी से रिलेटेड, आप कमेंट सेक्शन में आप कमेंट करके पूछ सकते हैं। नहीं तो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में हमारे टेलीग्राम चैनल का लिंक दिया गया, आप उसमें पूछ सकते हैं। हिंदी स्टेनोग्राफी के लिए आप अरिहंत सर से कॉन्टैक्ट कर सकते हैं, एंड फॉर इंग्लिश स्टेनोग्राफी यू कैन कॉन्टैक्ट टू मी। थैंक यू।